why don't we go ahead and get started? Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the November 1st meeting, 2023 of the Critical Area Commission. It's hard to believe it's November until you step outside, and then it's very obvious that it's November. But it is good to be with you all here for this virtual meeting. As it is a virtual meeting, I have a little bit of a script to read. So I will do that off the bat, and then we will get into our agenda for the day. The Critical Area Commission is holding this meeting virtually. The meeting is being held using Microsoft Teams and will be streamed live to the public. The public will be able to view the meeting from the Commission's website, and the meeting will be closed captioned. Minutes of the meeting will be provided on our website. As this is a virtual meeting, we have just a couple of additional practices to go over. If you are not speaking, please be sure to have your microphone muted. If you are speaking and you are able to flip your camera on as well, we would appreciate that. We ask that you hold all questions or comments until the end of each presentation. Announce your name when you are speaking so that any attendees on the phone can identify you as well as those of us on video. If you are joining the meeting by phone, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. All right. When we do these things virtually, we usually have Ms. Charbonneau read off the names of commissioners in attendance to make sure that we have everyone accounted for. Kate, can you walk us through that list?
Yes, I can, and I apologize if there is an echo from our room. Also, I'll be quick. I have Commissioner Bunker, Commissioner Conway, Commissioner Gerthofer, Commissioner Grant, Commissioner Rosahance, Commissioner Hewitt, Commissioner McCarthy, Commissioner Marion, Commissioner Outen, Commissioner Patel, Commissioner Porter, Commissioner Richards, Commissioner Roche, Commissioner Rodbian, Commissioner Young, as well as Commissioner Herr Cornwell, Commissioner Theo Williams for Julia Grant, DHCD. I have Commissioner Mulkey, Commissioner Robertson, and sitting in today is Sean Kiernan, who will hopefully be commissioner by next month. And is there anyone I missed?
Yes, Todd Knott.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Jim Palm, I'm not sure I heard my name.
Sorry, Jim.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I also didn't hear my name. This is Councilman Megan Outen.
Thank you all.
All right, Kate, you got Commissioner Knock as well? Great.
Yes.
Okay. There being a quorum, we are in session and we're going to begin with the approval of the minutes from our September 2023 meeting. Hope you all have had a chance to review those. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from September 2023?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Conway. Do we have a second?
You have a second.
Second from Commissioner Hewitt. Thank you. Any further discussion on the minutes?
No, I'm sorry. Commissioner Hewitt didn't second. I'll abstain. I wasn't at the last meeting.
It was Commissioner Marion.
Thank you, Commissioner Marion, and noted Commissioner Hewitt will be abstaining. All right, all in favor? Signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. And Commissioner Hewitt's abstention. Any other abstentions from the minutes from September?
I'm going to abstain myself. I was not at the meeting either. This is Steve Bunker.
This is Mayor Adams as well.
And Commissioner Adams. Thank you. Thank you all. The minutes are approved. That brings us to the one item on our program committee agenda today. This is a refinement for the City of Cambridge Critical Area Boundary Map Update, and Ms. Esposito will take us through that one.
Good afternoon, all. When I'm in presentation mode, I will not be able to see you, so please speak up if you cannot see or hear me. Before I begin, I just want to recognize we have Pat Escher here today with the City of Cambridge. And thank you for the city's effort on getting these maps updated. Okay, I think I'm presenting, but you only see, let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay, please let me know when you're able to see the presentation.
Looks good, Jen.
We're good, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, we are here today to review the City of Cambridge Critical Area Map Update. The City of Cambridge is located in Dorchester County on the Choptank River. The red area is indicative of Dorchester County in Maryland and over here. And then the red area here is showing you City of Cambridge in Dorchester County. The local jurisdictions are required to approve their updated critical area maps within 24 months from the date that the commission transfers the summary draft maps. And Ordinance 1216 was locally adopted in April 24th of this year. So now the maps are before you for final approval. So in total, there's 911 acres in the City of Cambridge within the critical area. With the mapping update, there was revisions to the boundary, 53 acres gained, 129 acres lost, with a net loss of 76 acres. And the majority reasons was that the critical area, the original critical area boundary was hand drawn and mapped in the 70s. And we have newer, greater technology today to fill truth that boundary and where the landward limits of tidal wetlands and tidal waters are located. Within the map, on the right-hand side, you see, if you can see the green line here, as where my cursor is the new boundary. The red line here is showing the old boundary. This was a significant loss. And again, that was just fine-tuning the actual on the ground situations with the updated technology that we're using today. And on the left-hand side, you can see a small gain here. Again, the green line is the outward line, is the new, and the red is the old. And this was just showing a more landward approach of tidal waters from a tributary stream. And with that, we are recommending that the commission concur with Chair Fisher's determination to process this mapping update as a refinement to the City of Cambridge's code. And we also are recommending approval of the updated maps. And I will turn that back over to Chair Fisher.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions from commissioners on the presentation? Right. Seeing, Commissioner Hans, Rosa. You're muted at the moment.
Thanks so much. Thank you for the presentation. I just have a clarifying question about the area that had been, it says historically developed and is excluded from the critical area program. Could you elaborate on what exactly that, what that means?
Yes, I took that out for the afternoon because I did discuss it in the morning, but if you can see this, do you see my cursor? There's about 437 acres that was originally excluded when the City of Cambridge adopted their original critical area program. That's the hashed kind of area here, or the area that's not colored along the Choptank. And that is because our natural resources article, section 8-1807C, allowed for local jurisdiction to request areas of land to be excluded from the original critical area development standards when those areas met certain criteria within the code and when that was approved by the commission. So while those land areas are not within the critical area or governed by critical area development standards, the underlying zoning standards apply. So the intent of exclusion areas was focused primarily on historic patterns of intense development. Really, that I think allowance was put in for really Baltimore City, not knowing how the critical area program would impact development within the city at the time. But the city of Baltimore was pretty excited about coming into the critical area program. But that still allowed for other jurisdictions to provide evidence for exclusion when it was approved by the commission. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jen. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, seeing none, I will turn to Subcommittee Chair Bunker for the report on this item.
Thank you. The program implementation subcommittee met this morning. Because the mapping update was completed in accordance with state law in COMAR 27.01.11, the program subcommittee concurs with the chair's determination that the City of Cambridge mapping update can be reviewed as a refinement to the city's critical area program, and the program subcommittee recommends approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Bunker. Any further discussion on this item? Right, seeing none, I will acknowledge the concurrence from the subcommittee, and the recommendation will stand as my final decision in this matter. Thank you all. Thank you, Pat and Jen, very much. All right, that concludes our program subcommittee agenda for today. So we thank you, Commissioner Bunker, and we will move on to our project subcommittee with one item. This is the Maryland Transportation Authority update to the General Approval Memorandum of Understanding. Ms. Durant will walk us through that one.
Thank you, Chair Fisher. All right, let's make sure I can do this. Could everyone see my presentation?
You are good to go.
Awesome. I will be presenting the MDTA MOU for general approval update. Before we get into the thick of it, I just wanted to share a slide with the commission showing you all of the different state agencies that we currently have memoranda of understanding with. I apologize to Tammy for the old MDE logo. We'll make sure that it's fixed next time. But as you can see, we have MOUs currently with MDTA, with SHA, with MTA, with DNR, with MDE, plenty of folks. So this is something that we do on a regular basis to help streamline our review process as Critical Area Commission staff, and also to help keep Commission from having to see very small projects that might not have a ton of impacts. For this specific update, the Critical Area Commission staff and Maryland Transportation Authority have been working together to update the general MOU for the last several months. The existing MOU was signed in 2015, so it's been about 8 years. We're almost at a decade since this was really reviewed and updated. COMAR 27.02.03 gives the Commission the authority to enter into general approval with state agencies, and we are implementing that through MOUs. The current existing MOU between MDTA and the Commission addresses all of the requirements under COMAR 27.02.03. So it addresses the process for project approval, eligible projects, and the responsibilities of both parties. We also have an existing exhibit that details specific projects that can be reviewed, and then thresholds for impacts and mitigation. The goals of this MOU update were to specifically streamline the existing process for critical area commission review of MDTA projects, to update the existing exhibit to include additional projects that we've noticed over time, and then also include procedures for including or adding projects as the MOU and exhibit are implemented, and update the thresholds for qualifying projects to match those in the State Highway Administration and Maryland Transportation Authority, exhibits to the Maryland Department of Transportation MOU. So first we'll talk about updates to the mitigation section of the MOU. We want to create an ecosystem mitigation banking program. Currently, MDTA has a roadside banking program that they use relatively well, I would say, and it was established under the existing MOU. But MDTA would like the opportunity to expand the roadside banking program to an ecosystem mitigation banking program to allow them to work on larger projects. It's hard sometimes for MDTA to find roadside to create banks because they don't have a lot of it. So an ecosystem mitigation banking program would allow them to do bigger projects, bigger mitigation projects. It would also allow MDTA to pursue innovative mitigation opportunities that provide water quality and habitat benefits. These would still include plantings and things of that nature. It would be on the ground work, but it may be a combination of, removal of invasive species and possibly planting not just trees, but also planting pollinator habitat and other options that could provide additional uplift. Under climate resiliency, we need to address the climate resiliency requirements that are stated in COMAR 270205. MDTA currently acknowledges that state agencies are required to consult with the Commission to assess climate resilient practices that address coastal hazards, extreme weather events, sea level rise, and other impacts. And we have a commitment from MDTA's Office of Engineering and Construction to review each project that addresses climate resiliency and incorporate CoastSmart siting and design guidelines to the maximum extent practicable. The Office of Engineering and Construction has a checklist of things that they are looking for when it comes to climate resiliency that is in line with the Commission's current climate resiliency requirements. And as we move forward with that, they are willing to adjust as well. We also updated the MOU to talk about future updates to the MOU so that we have a process for that and the exhibit. So changes to the MOU will require the consent of both parties, the Commission as well as MDTA, and then approval by the full Commission. Exhibit A, which has the specific projects, can be amended with the written approval of the points of contact for each party to the MOU, and then the full Commission will be notified of any amendments or modifications at the next meeting that the full Commission has. And this is standard now for our state agency MOUs. Within our Exhibit A updates, we wanted to update the structure of the exhibit to limit the appendices and the attachments. The existing exhibit, I believe, has 3 or 4 appendices and attachments, and we wanted to incorporate that information into the main body of Exhibit A. In doing so, we added a new category of projects called special projects, and some of the projects that are on the current list of approved projects already fit into special projects. We also added project types to the list of activities that may be approved under the MOU exhibit. And we did not make any changes to the current mitigation ratios. On the next slide, I will show you the new project types that we discussed. Under Category 1 projects, We added access roads, sidewalks, and ADA ramps. And then under category 2 projects, we added information about climate resilient practices will need to be incorporated where feasible. We updated that forest and developed woodland clearing is limited to 20,000 square feet for linear projects, and 5,000 square feet for non-linear projects. Oh, I've clicked the wrong button. Sorry, going back. And then shore erosion control projects are limited to 500 linear feet. During our discussion with the project subcommittee, there was a vote to amend the language in 2 areas, and one of them is under the category 2 to have, not specifically here, but there is under section 3.1, which talks about the thresholds for category 2. Oh, sorry, qualifying parameters for category 2. We would add clearing would not exceed 20,000 square feet for linear projects and stormwater management projects and practices. And 5,000 square feet for nonlinear projects. And that will be discussed later as well. And I believe that is all of the information I have at this time. Chair Fisher.
Great. Thanks, Kate. Questions on the MOU?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Porter. I don't understand anything that was just discussed. Are we talking about for the Maryland Transportation Authority? Are we talking about mitigation or taking areas in and making them wetlands to mitigate with Department of Transportation? We have several areas in my county where they have come in and created wetlands, and I've literally had people who have sold their homes and moved away because of it.
Commissioner,
Yeah.
I can probably help. This is Kate Charbonneau. This is an agreement that lays out how MDTA may conduct certain projects, namely construction projects, development projects, under the guidance of an MOU. So the MOU gives parameters for the size of those projects, the impacts of those projects, and how mitigation will be required for those projects. If a project meets the parameters of the MOU, it can either be reviewed internally by staff at MDTA, and those are category 1 projects, or if it's a little bit larger, it is a category 2 project and it comes to our office and commission staff reviews and signs off on it. What does not happen is it does not come to the commission for a vote. And the purpose of doing these types of MOUs is so that we can manage maintenance and redevelopment projects in a much more streamlined way with our state agency partners and ensure that we're not holding up very basic repeat type of projects that all of our agencies generally have to undertake every day. Does that make sense?
Not really. All I'm going to tell you is that we aren't going to have any more of these come in our county. So
and the wetland yeah. So this is not.
We're not going to do it.
Those wetland projects. Yeah, this does not relate to those wetland projects.
Okay. Well, I'll find out who it does relate to, but we're not having any more in Caroline County. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Commissioner Adams.
Yeah, this is somewhat of a broad question, but as we look at trying to bring the MDTA and make it kind of in line with the other MOUs we have, is this a case of where does one size fit all? The mitigation processes and other things, and as we're doing this MOU, does the MOU for MDTA really mess SHA and others I mean, is it one size fits all?
This is Nick Kelly. So the changes that were made to sort of match state highways was based on experience with the MDTA MOU that was approved back in 2014. Those parameters we were seeing were being exceeded, and therefore they were doing their justification, bringing the projects under the justification project. And so given that the commission provided a little bit more flexibility to State Highway, to Maryland Transportation Authority, Maryland Transit Administration, that MTTA would want to have the same types of requirements, the same type of parameters. It makes more projects fit in the category because they're seeing similar types of projects and similar types of limits of disturbance.
If I could add, this is Kate Charbonneau. I think also, these are transportation type projects, so they are a bit more similar, which I think supports making the parameters similar between the different MOUs. Certainly with some of our other agencies, we have different types of projects and the parameters, are specific to those types of projects.
And so if I could just follow up, so we are not trying to make this consistent over all of the agencies, just trying to make this one a little more fall in line with the, I want to say, MTA and the SHA?
Correct, that is correct. And for example, Maryland Department of Natural Resources has a different MOU with different parameters. Maryland Port Administration has a different MOU with different parameters because these types of parameters wouldn't work for the port, for example.
And so we believe this isn't a one size fits all, but something that's a little more along the same lines.
Yeah, it's more, we're trying to tailor it as best we can to the specific state agency.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Commissioner Rosa Hantz.
Hi, good afternoon. I have a question about a couple of parallels that I noticed earlier in the project subcommittee. We were discussing that there were no limits on stormwater management, clearing of woody vegetation. There's also another portion in this MOU where it says there's no limit of disturbance limit for linear projects. I just want to question the reasoning behind not setting any kind of threshold limitations by which this MOU would need to be re-examined, because if we're saying that there's no limit, then it would seem to me anyway, it would take the matter entirely out of the commission's purview. Is that accurate? I just want to better understand why there are no limitations for certain types of projects.
I think Kate's looking it up to find it right now, Commissioner Hantz, but it's still limited because it's limited to the types of projects. So for example, if MDTA is widening their roadway by 2 feet, if you put a 5,000 square foot limit of disturbance on that, that would be a pretty tiny project. And yet all they're doing is just trying to provide a little bit wider shoulder area. And so that, and Kate, if you can confirm, but that is the intention of where that comes into play.
Yes, there, in COMAR 270205, sorry, I'm counting the numbers I'm giving you. That talks about state agency actions resulting in development on state-owned lands. And one of the things it mentions is that linear projects are considered to be intensely developed area, whether or not they occur on intensely developed area. And as Kate Charbonneau was saying, linear projects are limited in width. So when we look at the linear project, it has to be limited to a 5-foot width maximum. And usually when there is a linear project, they're coming in to do some sort of work, if they are expanding the roadway, or if they might just be coming in and doing some temporary disturbance, and they will return it back to its original state.
But what it does not provide for is the addition of an entire new lane. So those get kicked out of the MOU. And so those come to the commission. And so it's a pretty narrow scope. So that's why there's no restriction on that overall limit of disturbance, is because it's restricted in these other parameters in terms of what type of project could actually qualify under that.
Okay, that is helpful, although I guess I would suggest that if we were considering other MOUs of this nature, that type of language be inserted to limit the misunderstanding. I would like to make one point of additional reference, that if we're talking about 20 miles of even, 2 feet widening, that ends up adding up to a number of acres that if a private property owner were to be talking about clearing of that, amount of size and total area, it would be a burden upon a private property owner. So I think that making sure that state agencies are required to do the same kinds of replantings and have the same kinds of limitations would be in good order.
Yeah, and there's still a restriction on the overall amount of clearing that could occur. So while the disturbance might be unlimited, there's still a limit, there's still a cap on clearing, and then there's still a requirement for stormwater management to be met. And if there were any clearing under that cap, it has to be mitigated. So they'll have to meet all those same requirements.
And to evaluate coastal resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that resolves it. I think having definitions of what's the difference between woody vegetation and a tree might be helpful, because some of them, woody vegetation can be trees. So there's a little bit of ambiguity there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rosa. Commissioner Richards.
Hi, thanks. I'm just wondering if we could back up to the expanded mitigation bank portion of what you covered. Could you please just kind of go back over that and go into more detail of quantify how big that expansion is? Does that include new types of mitigation? And do stream restorations factor into that type of mitigation banking?
Hi, this is Kate Durant. The way it's written in the MOU is that the MOU allows for MDTA to basically sort of work with Critical Area Commission to create a process to create mitigation banks. We are starting to sort of explore that to see what size of a bank we would allow. If you are familiar with, I'm trying to think, Masonville Cove in the city of Baltimore, that is essentially sort of a mitigation bank. It was an area that they did some plantings and helped create more ecological uplift. So now it is an area along the harbor where it's much more naturalized. And so MDTA would like the opportunity to do that. The issue with their roadside banks is MDTA only handles roads that have tolls. So you're looking at the Bay Bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the 95 tunnels, the 895 tunnels. They don't necessarily have a lot of available land that isn't right along the roadway, where they also need access to perform regular road maintenance. So giving them the opportunity to create a process to create mitigation banks, allows them to think about creating mitigations like nearby to a project, but not necessarily adjacent, and gives them a little bit more flexibility to provide, in some cases, probably better mitigation.
Okay, and then because of those banks not being directly nearby the road, so if MDTA has a road that's outside of the critical area, but they're looking at a mitigation space that's within the critical area, would that mitigation plan come to the commission for review? And vice versa, if the disturbance is happening in the critical area, do we still evaluate the mitigation plan if that partially or fully exists outside the critical area?
To answer your first question, I don't believe that MDTA has any roads that are not within the critical area, just due to the nature of the types of roads that they maintain.
Okay.
When the Nice Bridge down in Southern Maryland was completely, we got a new Nice Bridge. Some of the mitigation for that wound up being off-site, and some of it, I believe, is outside of the critical area. So that was reviewed and commented on by the commission.
Okay.
So if I can just add to that, if there was this innovative mitigation banking, it would come back to the commission as under a separate MOU. So we have a roadside mitigation bank where we have all the parameters. So if MDTA pursues this, the commission would be able to see the parameters before it would be enacted. So the commission would have oversight with that MOU.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Annie. Any other questions on this one? All right, seeing none at this time, I will turn to our subcommittee chair, Conway, for the report.
Thank you, Chair Fisher. So, of course, we had a spirited discussion about this this morning in the project subcommittee. On behalf of the project subcommittee, I move that the Critical Area Commission grant approval of the Memorandum of Understanding and its associated Exhibit A between the Maryland Transportation Authority and the Critical Areas Commission. This motion is offered in accordance with the staff report and presentation on the following conditions: that 1, we add and stormwater management practices to number 5 of Exhibit A, section 3.1 on page 13, such that it would read, forest and developed woodland clearing may not exceed 20,000 square feet for linear projects and stormwater management practices. Forest and developed woodland clearing may not exceed 5,000 square feet for nonlinear projects. And 2, to remove no clearing limit for woody vegetation, including the buffer, under the stormwater management category of Exhibit A, section 3.2 on page 16, so that would read stormwater practices, maintenance and enhancement with over 20,000 square feet of cutting, clearing, or grubbing of woody vegetation within the existing footprint of the practice, including any maintenance easement for access to the practice, and striking the line, no clearing limit from woody vegetation, including in the buffer, as we discussed just a little bit earlier. And then written justification is required for impacts in the buffer outside of the existing footprint of the practice, or for cutting, clearing, grubbing of woody vegetation outside of the existing footprint of practice, including any impacts to the buffer or cutting, clearing, or grubbing of woody vegetation related to a new access road, impacts outside of the existing footprint of the practice to the buffer or to the woody vegetation outside the buffer shall be mitigated at 1:1.
Thank you.
That was
We
a
have
long
a
motion.
motion. Yeah, it's a great motion. We have a motion on the table, on the floor. Do we have a second to the subcommittee's motion?
Commissioner
Second.
Grant seconds.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Any discussion on the motion as it emerged from the subcommittee? We ready for a vote? All right, this is a full voting matter. Given there was no discussion on the motion, I will first call for a voice vote. So all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Sounds like a winner. Do we have anyone opposed? Very well. Motion carries. Thank you all. That concludes our project subcommittee agenda for today. And that moves us into legal updates. Ms. Binieri.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have two updates for you today. One of them relates to, or the first one, I guess I should say, relates to a case that we have pending in the Circuit Court for St. Mary's County. In this case, the Critical Area Commission is challenging the St. Mary's County Board of Appeals decision to grant a critical area variance for a replacement pool in the critical area buffer. That case has been fully briefed, and I just wanted to give you an update that the hearing on that is scheduled for November 14th. So I will keep you posted as to how that goes. And then the second case that we have pending is in Cecil County Circuit Court, and there the Critical Area Commission appealed a decision by Cecil County's Land Use and Development Services to approve a re-subdivision plat to reconfigure two parcels. And it's the commission's position that this created an additional waterfront parcel in the resource conservation area that was not allowed under the Critical Area Commission's regulations. So that case has also been fully briefed, and that hearing is set for December 8th. And again, I will keep you posted as to how that goes. So that is all I have.
Okay, thanks, Emily. Any questions? Right. Headed into old business. Ms. Charbonneau, do we have any old business?
We do not have any old business today.
No old business. Great. We have some new business, though. And this section will be just a little bit longer than usual because we didn't really have another place to put these items, but I'm excited about this piece. We're going to talk about establishing a couple of work groups today. And for those of us who are relatively new to the commission, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the purpose of a commission work group. And then we'll dive into each of the two you see on your agenda in a little bit more detail. Establishing a work group is basically a subset of the full commission, sort of like our subcommittees, but it's focused on one very specific topic or issue. It will allow us as a commission to dig a little bit deeper on an issue than we can in a full commission meeting. And it can also provide some guidance to our staff on a topic that is relatively new, where we don't have a long track record of certain actions or policies when we're looking to establish new policies as a commission. A work group is an appropriate way in many cases to give that guidance to our staff so that they can come back to the full commission with something workable. So this is an opportunity to help set the tone. And you may be wondering how you can get engaged in that. There are at least 3 ways for you to get yourself onto a work group. One way is to volunteer right here today by putting your name and your preferred work group in the chat. I think you are welcome to join both work groups if you would like, although that would be a significant volunteer commitment. You may also volunteer shortly later. Phone, email, text to me. Singing Telegram would be amazing if you chose that route. Just let me know if either of these piques your interest. And then thirdly, you may be asked to join one of these work groups. We want to make sure that our work groups are representative, both in terms of geography and in terms of other demographics and characteristics as we go forward, so that we are getting the benefit of the full breadth of perspective that we have on our commission and in our state. So with that, we're going to first turn to the State Highway Administration mitigation banking proposal. And Ms. Sharon is going to walk us through an introduction to that matter.
Thank you, Chair Fisher. So hopefully I'll be able to share my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen?
All set, Charlotte.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. As Chair Fisher said, my name is Charlotte Sheeran. I am going to be presenting a proposal from the State Highway Administration to be able to use regional mitigation banks to meet critical area mitigation requirements. So about a year ago, SHA sent us a proposal that selected 6 different sites across Maryland in the critical area. And they took these 6 sites and created service areas. So let's see if I can use my laser pointer. Okay, so one of the sites is here in Worcester County, and that is meant to service Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset counties. So if an SHA project were to take place in either of those, any of those 3 counties, SHA could potentially meet the mitigation at this site in Worcester County. Similarly, there is a site in Caroline County that would service Caroline, Talbot, and Dorchester. There is a site in Queen Anne's County that would service Queen Anne's, Kent, and Cecil counties. There is a site in Baltimore County that would service Harford and Baltimore County. There was a site in Anne Arundel County proposed to service Anne Arundel and Calvert counties. And there was a site in St. Mary's County proposed to service St. Mary's, Charles, and Prince George's counties. So when Commission staff received this information, we did a little bit of our own analysis and research. So you should have received, as part of your packet for today, a memo from me to our chair outlining the proposal. And within that memo, there was an extensive table that basically, well, it was created, first of all, by our science advisor, Claudia Jones, who is on the line. But she did kind of a desktop analysis of each of these sites to determine whether they could potentially offer appropriate water quality and habitat benefits. So that information she took from the Watershed Resources Registry as well as Greenprint, which are 2 desktop tools that you can use to kind of identify the potential habitat and water quality benefits of a location. So based on that information, we actually narrowed things down to just 5 sites. The site proposed in Anne Arundel County was not deemed to have sufficient water quality or habitat benefits in order to meet critical area mitigation requirements. So once we had things narrowed down to these 5 sites that were left, Claudia and I accompanied SHA staff and conducted site visits at each of these proposed banking sites. So this is the first site we visited. It's called the Firehouse site in Worcester County. This is an aerial of the site, and it is actually currently being used as a wetland mitigation bank for compensatory MDE mitigation related to wetland impacts. So the proposal would be to plant trees and vegetation kind of around the wetland itself. This is the wetland. You can kind of see it in this outline here. That is what is currently being used for wetland banking. And so then there would be plantings kind of around the outside here. These are just a few images from the site. You can see that they're actually is very nice habitat there. I was pleasantly surprised. We saw a lot of wildlife out on this site, including green herons, box turtles, deer, all kinds of stuff. So again, kind of reflects that Claudia's desktop analysis actually did a very good job of indicating that this is potentially a valuable site for habitat and water quality. The next site we visited is the Piney Point site in St. Mary's County. It is primarily this area here, and there's potential for planting some of this area here as well. And this site actually has been used for mitigation, for critical area mitigation for the Route 5 widening project that occurred in St. Mary's County that came to the commission a few years ago. And the mitigation for that project was met here. That project actually is a good example of something I should have brought up earlier, but often when SHA, they're primarily the projects that we review from them are linear projects. They are roadway projects. So they often involve widening the roadway for safety reasons, that was the case with the Route 5 project. They could involve adding a lane, a turning lane to a roadway. But SHA's property is, pretty much strictly within the easement along that roadway. So in order to get their mitigation on site, they would be restricted to planting within that roadway easement. And that itself can potentially create safety issues. So it is often not desirable for safety reasons, roadway design reasons to plant on site. So it is not uncommon for SHA projects that we see currently to meet their critical area mitigation requirements off-site. And that has been the case with this Piney Point site. So this was another very well-established site. Like I said, there had already been some plantings here. A couple of these photos show those plantings. They were doing very well. There is, a decent amount of opportunity to plant in addition to the mitigation that's already been met there. The site does have buffer on it. It is adjacent to FIDS habitat. It is a very, again, provides significant habitat and water quality benefit potential. The third site we visited is known as the Kubeck site in Caroline County. This site is has also already been used as a mitigation bank for the widening project along Route 404. So this site was very well established with forested vegetation. You can see here there's pretty large trees already growing on site, but this was the whole site was planted at the time that the Route 404 mitigation was needed, but that project did not require use of all of the acreage that was available for planting here. So they planted the full site, but only needed to deduct a certain amount for the Route 404 project. So there is a remainder there that they are proposing to use as part of this regional mitigation banking. The next site we visited is called the Callahan site in Queen Anne's County. It is right along Route 50. It's currently being farmed. When we were on site, it was mostly cornfield, but it does have connection to a well-forested area here, which I believe is designated as FIDS habitat, and there is a small riparian stream on the property. And so this gives you an idea. So this photo is basically what it looks like now. Like I said, it is all being farmed. This is the adjacent forest on site, which was, a decent amount of hardwood forest. This tree here is another good example of what that looks like. And then there is also, I don't know if it's pollinator habitat or kind of meadow along the roadway. There's an extensive amount of that that's out there currently. And the last site that we visited was in Baltimore County. So this site is right along Route 702 Southeast Boulevard in Essex. And it is, as you can see, adjacent to a riparian component. I believe SHA owns a decent amount of this land as well. And then this is kind of the area that they would propose for mitigation. These are just some of the images from that site. So this area here actually had been replanted recently as mitigation for a utility line project that had gone through there. So that's just a photo of some mitigation they were already meeting there. That, I guess that would have been considered like on-site mitigation because the utility line was right there. But there's also a decent amount of area that could be planted. This site probably had the most invasives on the site, so that would likely also be a part of, what would be required as far as creating a mitigation banking site out of this location. So that is, I just wanted to kind of provide an overview of the proposal we received, the information that Claudia kind of compiled in her analysis. You should have a copy of that. I also added at the bottom of that table an analysis using the MDE EJ screen tool to kind of assess whether the proposed banking sites were within an underserved or overburdened community. So that information is also on that table. And as Chair Fisher said, we are hopefully looking to create a work group to kind of move forward with the idea that we would create, if the work group determines that this could be a potential solution for SHA's mitigation, then we would be looking at creating an MOU between SHA and the Critical Area Commission. And I think with that, I will turn it over to Chair Fisher.
After this ends.
Great, thank you, Charlotte. So a ton of information has come in from SHA, and Claudia and Charlotte and some others on our team have done a tremendous amount of work reviewing and analyzing that information and the request. Essentially, the State Highway Administration is asking the Commission for the ability to offset impacts from projects around these service areas in more centrally located, regionally effective banks. And that's a question, I think, at this scale that is new to the Commission. And so a big piece of the ask to the work group is that an appropriate response to offsetting impacts? Is that something that the Commission can be supportive and work with? And then under that question, we anticipate the work group looking at questions of scope. Are the right types and sizes of projects being considered for this regional bank process? How do we guarantee that these things will be adequately maintained and survive? And of course, equity, as Charlotte began to allude to. The benefits of the offset and the mitigation being shared in a way that is equitable. So these are just a quick preview of some of the questions that we are tasking this work group with. The hope is to have a work group recommendation back to the full Commission sometime around April of this coming spring. Monthly meetings, more or less, maybe a little bit less in the beginning, maybe a little bit more on the tail end as we hone in on a recommendation. About an hour in length, all virtual, is the plan for this time. And those meetings, as many of our other proceedings, would be coordinated by our very capable staff. So if this is something that interests you, please feel free to let us know now or soon that you would be interested in being on that work group. And as I said, we may fill it out with a few other willing members. Commissioner Hewitt, I think I see your hand raised. you'd like
Yes,
to.
you do, Chair
Yep,
Fisher.
go for it.
Piney Point's obviously in my county. I'm a commissioner here. I would definitely be interested in being on this work group. We have a big project we've been pushing for years and years, and it's the replacement of the Thomas Johnson Bridge and the improvements to Maryland Route 235, Maryland Route 4 in St. Mary's County. And this mitigation idea, I didn't get Charlotte's report, sorry, but our staff does what they do, and I never got it. So if I could get it, I'd appreciate it. But I'd definitely be interested in being on this one. Now, let me just point out one more thing. I am a holdover. My 2 terms have ended, and the Senator Bailey, our senator, has appointed or recommended a replacement for me, but he can't get appointed until the legislature convenes, later in the winter and into the spring. So the point would be is if I were to be replaced, would I be able to continue to serve, or would you have to have commission members? I'd be serving probably at least till April. So by the first time it would be work, but I wouldn't want to be on there, then have to be, removed unless my replacement wanted to do it.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. I think the membership question is one for Emily.
And I have to actually look into that. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I can look into it.
Thanks, Emily. Commissioner Porter?
To be on this commission as well. I got a lot of questions about this, so get ready.
Excellent. So we have a work group. All right. Okay, yep. Kate's going to make sure everybody gets this report so you can see all the details, all the fun little details, and know what you're getting yourself into. All right. Any further questions, discussions on that one?
There
Much
were
more
a
to
few
come.
entries in the text chat while other discussion was going on.
Great. Okay. Yep, Brian, we'll get you the report. And yep, I think, again, Brian, those are great thoughts to bring forward as we consider this as a work group. All right. So the last item under new business for today is the DEIJ work group. We do not have an additional presentation today associated with that. Many of you, I know, were able to join us for the Dimensions of Diversity training this morning. Thank you for spending the time with that. I know not all of you were able to attend. Diversity is certainly one piece of this. It's not the only piece. We also have equity and inclusion and justice to consider, especially when we consider a response to the diversity of our state and how that has been handled well or less well over many, many decades of work. And as we as a commission are exercising state authorities, we want to make sure that we are clear as to what those terms mean to us and how they are reflected in our work and in our decision-making process. So the goal of this work group is to start to answer some of those questions, to get specific about what we mean by some of those terms, and how they influence our decision-making process as well as the decisions that we make. The end result, hopefully, for this work group is a recommended policy, formal policy on DEIJ that the full commission would then review and adopt. Some specific topic areas for this work group include training and dialogue. In other words, what areas, by Alicia, what areas of literacy and capacity the commission as a whole needs to further develop on this topic. Considerations around public participation, both in our meetings and our work groups and our less formal activities. Ways in which we might be able to evaluate the burdens that are associated with human activities that we manage in the critical area and the burdens brought on by climate change. on the other hand, the experience of benefits associated with conservation and mitigation, and how those are felt differently in different communities within our jurisdiction, and public access to our waterways and the features of the critical area that is a central goal of this commission, and making sure that access is available to all. And then, of course, some metrics so that we can be clear about the progress that we're making and accountable to ourselves and to others as we move that policy forward. So a lot of big questions around this one, but I think very important questions, and questions that have been unaddressed for too long. So for this one, we think about 8 meetings spread between next month and fall of 2024. Again, these will be coordinated by staff, an hour to 90 minutes in length, all virtual, to give you an idea of the commitment on this particular work group. And hopefully by next November, next year, this time, we'll be looking at a report to the full commission for consideration and adoption. Do we have any questions or comments on this one off the bat? All right. So again, feel free to reach out if this is of interest to you, if you would like to serve. And you may also get a request to help us out on this one in the next week or so. So with that, that concludes our formal agenda. Just a quick announcement about next month. The next meeting is December 6th is the current date that we're looking at. We're also looking at a pretty full agenda. So hold on to your eggnog. It's going to be something else. If we could get RSVPs quickly for that meeting, Kate will send out a formal request for a head count. But we want to make sure there are some other things going on. It is the holiday season. We want to make sure we're going to be able to pull a quorum for that meeting. So keep a lookout for that inquiry. It will likely be in person. It'll probably be our last in-person meeting until springtime. But hopefully we'll be able to have a significant number of us join in person for a hefty agenda and some holiday cheer before we all part ways for 2023. It's hard to believe we're already saying that. Are there any other comments from commissioners before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
Chair Fisher, this is Commissioner Porter. I would just note that December 6th is the first day of the Winter Maryland Association of Counties meeting. So I will not be able to participate in that.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. And that may be an issue for a couple other.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Commissioner Fisher. That'll be a conflict for Commissioner Hewitt too. I'll be there also.
Okay. Yep. This is why we ask. I make sure that we're going to be all right to proceed. Okay. Thank you to our staff for your preparation and assistance for today's meeting. Commissioners, thank you for your time and service to our critical area. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Knock. Do we have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Marion, thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I think that's good enough. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone.